everybody and share my screen. Okay. Okay. So this is self-evident. It's told us where we have set our working directory.
Recording in progress.
If I wanted, yeah, it's going to turn off the volume. Okay. If I wanted to check where my working directory was at, what function would I use? Yeah. Sometimes the grammar. Okay, yes, get WD, correct. All right. It's always good to check to make sure we're going to save things where we think we're saving them. Otherwise, it can get lost. All right. Does everyone have those practice files that I asked you to download? All right, cool. So there are 3 file types in there, a tab-delimited text file and a big old CSV file. So let's first see if we can navigate to where those are at. So if I want to know working directory, but I don't want to go to the outside of RStudio, just use R to tell me. And this, you don't have to put anything, there are no arguments. You can just, for right now. Okay, hello, spelling's important, list files. Okay, so when I type this, it gives me a big list here. Now, in this folder, in this directory, we have folders that have files within them. And so with no arguments, it defaults to something called recursive false. Does anyone know what recursive means? Recursive means it's like, look, it's like an argument that means look deeper. So if we set it, and we'll try this, if we set recursive to equal to true, we're going to see additional files because it's going to pull up the ones that are in the folders. So for example, let's see here, exams. Yes, you'll just see the name. Don't get excited. You're not going to get any sort of heads up, right? We're going to see files in 13 and 14. Okay. So right now, list files defaults to the argument recursive is equal to false. Now you may remember we talked a little bit about this last class. There are different arguments that go with each function, and sometimes there are default settings. The one we talked about last time was the round function, and that it defaults to having digits to equal to 0. So if we say list files, and then I tabbed to bring up all the different arguments. Path we would use if we wanted to ask it to list files in a completely different directory than our working directory. But if we leave that blank, it's just going to default to our working directory. So I'm going to scooch on down here to the recursive argument, and I'm going to say true. Just to pop up. Sorry, let me get this to not be at the bottom. All right, there we go. All right. So we see that we have a lot more files that have come up, and it's now returning the files that are in our folder. So like our exercises and things like that. Oh, I thought I put this in here. There we go. Okay. So why are we talking about this? Okay. So in here, the practice files that we're going to work with next are numbers 15, 16, and 17. They were in a folder called import practice files. So we're going to call them using this. That's their name. Okay. So we're first going to import the xlsx file, the tax observations. Okay, so I haven't loaded any libraries. Do you guys remember what we had to do last time when we were working with an Excel file? You were right. We did have to install a new package, but we have already installed it. So once you install a package, it's installed. You don't have to do that step again. So what was the second step that we did? We had to load the package. So we're going to call it up so that we have access to those functions. So we installed 2 different Excel type packages. I think what we use? I think we're going to use read Excel. All right, let's try it. Remember, library read. All right, thank goodness for RStudio. R's like, oh, read. Do you want this one or this one? We want read Excel. Okay. If you run this is all that's going to happen. That means the package is loaded. Do we have success or errors? Success. All right. Okay. So anything that you upload, you want to save to your environment, you need to assign an object name, right? The only exception to that rule is if it's an Rdata file. We're working with an Excel file, so we need to assign the data that we're loading into R to an object name. So I'm just going to assign it to E. All right. Nope. Trying to remember the function name. There we go. It's an underscore. Now you may think to yourself, how did she just knows? This is just through practice. And this is why when you're learning to code, probably for the first year and a half, you will have Stack Overflow open on one screen and RStudio on the other. Because even experienced coders, if they haven't used a function in a while, they forget. They just forget. So it is very normal. Don't feel like you're behind or anything. That is just how it works. There's no way for you to memorize anything unless you use it all the time. Okay, so we're going to use the react_excel function. And I'm going to type tab again because I want to know my arguments. So this first one is, what's the path name? Okay, so we helped ourselves out a little bit when we listed our files because that includes the path name. So we know where to look. So the first thing is it's in a folder called import practice files. Okay, and on tab again, RStudio is going to help us out. And I'm going to select the xlsx file. Okay. Now, Excel files can have multiple worksheets. This one only has one. If you have an Excel file that you want to upload like the second worksheet or third, you're going to have to probably use you will have to use the sheet argument because it defaults to the first worksheet. We're going to be explicit right here and we'll just say sheet equals 1, just for grins and giggles. And there's nothing else here we really need to deal with. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to take away this comma. Otherwise, it's going to yell at me about an argument, about missing an argument. Okay. All right. Did that work for everybody? No? Oh, no. What you got going on? Oh, okay. So that's the folder. And it's out. You can hit tab. Yeah. Let's check the workers mark. Okay. Is your import in this folder? Then you need to set work order to whatever. All right, any other trouble questions? In the back, okay. Okay. Yes, that's completely fine. Yeah, I'll just, if I don't have it, I'll tell it. Yeah, that's a great question. So as you guys are kind of probably getting a sense of, there's multiple ways to achieve the same goal in R. All of them can be right. So if you like to use a separate package for something that I do, cool, go for it. In fact, that helps me learn other functions that are available we all get into habits where we just want to use like the same tool over and over again. But there might be a better tool out there that I'm not aware of. So if you want to do something different, I'm just going to run it until it gets to the right answer. Cool. Mommy, did that work? Did you get to the right directory? Okay. All right, so we always want to check to make sure that our data imported the way that we think it did. So what function should I use to just like take a look at the first, let's say 8 rows of my data set? Head, yeah, good job. So remember head defaults to like the 6 rows. So I said 8, so that's why I'm adding 8 there. All right, looks pretty normal. Cool, all right. Let's import the tab-delimited text file. All right, how do I know that it's tab-delimited? Well, first of all, we can go look at it. We'll do that. I also put on Moodle. If you're a Windows user, I apologize. I'm not trying to discriminate against Mac people. There is a text editor that I was using last class, TextPad. It's free. So I just put the URL on Moodle if you wanted to download that. Okay. So how do I know that this is tab-delimited? All right, I'm going to just navigate here to my where I saved it at. All right, here it is. Let me reshare here with the TextPad. See if I can zoom in. Nope, no zooming. Apparently not. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can. There we go. Trying to make this. All right. So I've opened up some TextPad, and there's no commas, right? So it's definitely not comma separated. If you want to be like really check, you can. You guys ever use the paragraph tool in Microsoft Word where you want to see like the spaces and the tabs and things like that? Yes. This has that same thing. It's up there in the toolbar. We're going to click it. Okay, and so now it's showing us the spaces. And so for this, it's like, oh, these are little tabs. That's what this little triangle means. That's how we know it's tab-delimited. Sometimes you get weird text files and it's like 3 spaces and that makes your life hard, but we're just going to learn how to do text tab-delimited because that's the second most common one that we find. So, okay. Going back to R. Get this to come up in the middle. All right. All right. What do I want to use to read a text file in? Read table. I think I heard it. No, I don't get any sort of help here. I see how it's, there you go. Good job, buddy. Okay. Okay. So we need to tell it how the data argument here, SEP. Yeah, anybody, this was a very small detail. Any guesses on how we're going to tell it that it's tab-delimited? Ooh, very good memory. Now our data did have headers, so we're going to say headers equals true. All right, let's check to see what it looks like. Hey, looks good. Looks like it's supposed to look. Did you guys have success? It's okay if you're having trouble, just raise your hand and I'll come help.
Yeah, of course. We're able to download the files. Okay, so I'm confused. We should have that unless you're downloading the package. So, set your local directory. So, that's not, it's not. Okay, so. Yes. Alright, well, why don't you take this one? And this is a tree zone. That's it. Let's try. Yes. Okay, so that's consistent. That's why I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, usually I can press it. Then I
Okay, up until this point, we've dealt with pretty small file sizes, but particularly if you guys are doing any sort of bioinformatics or any sort of sensors that collect like a lot of data, you may end up with some text files or CSV files that are quite large in size. And so in your practice folder, you may have seen a file that's like at least 30 gigabytes in size, 30 gigabytes in size. It's pretty hefty. And so reading that in using our normal read table function or read CSV function, we're going to see it's going to take a while. And then I'm going to show you a function that will help it go faster. Okay. So let's read in this massive CSV file. So when I say large, I just mean a lot of rows. Let me just get this to be at the top. There we go. All right, so this will true. I'm just gonna go like this. Okay, so I just want you for this to pay attention, and also on your consoles, how long the little stop sign that's gonna run here is gonna be happening. It's not gonna be instantaneous. Should not be. All right, ready? Still waiting. Still waiting. Y'all have your stop signs running? Yeah, this is taking a while. The stop sign is, this is a little, this is the, well, so this is the indication that R is working on something. And if you clicked it, you would stop the process. Nobody got that? All right, let's this happen. It does not have it running. No way. That is a whole like, punchline. Oh, burn. Okay. Okay, well, mine finally finished. My computer is from 2016, so maybe that had it. All right. Well, if you want to go a little faster, the function you can use is from a new library called data table. So we're going to install this package, library data table. I'll just reinstall it. Let me show you how to do it. Okay. All right. So we're going to go to. Nice. Thanks. I'm going to type data table. Oh, should just come up, making sure. There we go. All right, so let's interpret this warning message. It says, I found the package RTools, that's this one, and it said the RTools package that you have currently installed is like out of date, please update. So you could go update it. RTools is a very big package and it eats up a lot of memory, so anyway. But it was just a warning message, and so it's still downloaded, so you don't have to freak out about that, but like always pay attention to the warning messages and just know what's happening. Okay. So y'all were able to install data table? Cool, let's load it up. Okay. So I'm going to call this cfast. We're going to use a function called fread. I'm just gonna copy and paste here for make my life easy. Now fread needs to know the separator. It doesn't assume that it's comma delimited, so we're going to tell it that it's a comma. And we're going to tell it that they are headers. It's hidden. I'm going to wrap this around here real quick so you can see. Okay. All right, so this should be quite faster than the previous. And the nice thing about this is it gives a little progress bar, a little bit more satisfying. And it's done. So for me, at least, that was significantly more quick than what I had done before. Okay, are there any questions about reading in these different file types? No? It's kind of rinse and repeat a little bit, yeah. Okay, well, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about exporting or saving different file types. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make or export data that we've uploaded in RStudio as an Rdata file. You may remember that Rdata files, I've said, occupy less space and they load faster. So particularly when I have like large files, like this frameless file that's kind of bulky, I will initially upload it into R, and then I'm going to save it as an Rdata file so I don't have to futz with it later, like it's long. Okay, so to save, we're going to save as .r data file. So it's just save as our function. It wants to know what we're saving. So we're going to save cfast. There we go. I knew you knew it. File fast. Well, let's make it more explicit. I want to say frameless because that's exactly what it is. All right. D38. Oh. Oh, I didn't plug this in. One of those days. That's why my computer's struggling. It's on its battery. It's having a hard time. Okay. Get some juice, buddy. Okay. Now I need to give it the file extension that I want to save it as. So file extensions are things like .text, .csv. If you're a Word document, .docx. So here we want to save it as our data. And that's really all I do. I don't need to, I never use any of the other arguments. That's it. Okay. All right. So if I use my list files function to check what files are now in my working directory, if you use kind of buried here, but you'll see it. We have a new file called frameless D38 at number 9. Some folks like to save as an R object file. You may see this in some places. It seems to behave exactly the same way, as an Rdata file. And you save it the same way. I'm just doing this so that for completeness. So instead of Rdata, it's just R object. OBJ. Okay, checking again. There is, where did it go? There it is. So we have an R object file now, and we have an R data file. So because the extensions are different, they're different files. Okay. So for this next one, we're going to use a different object because see fast, that's a very big, and it's going to take forever. So let's use something straightforward like E. What's E? I think E is our R data. Yeah, okay. So for this, we're going to use something called write CSV. And then X is going to be the object that we want to save. In this case, it's E. Our file, it's going to be the file name just as before. We'll just call this Taxa Florida for giggles. And I'm going to write down the extension, CSV. Don't need to do separator, comma is defaulted. This is something that I do. We can try this both ways. But if you don't set row names equal to false, it will add an extra column that has the row names. And that can be annoying if you don't want them. So row names false. This means, note here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just go and find this so we can look at it. Okay, here's that. We just made it. It's a little tiny, I apologize. I'm going to open it up. Share my screen. Okay, so looks very normal, right? Just what you want. All right. All right, what if we forget to do this row names equals false business? What happens? So if it defaults to true, right? So if I just did this, let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm going back to that file. Okay, so it's a subtle difference, but on the first column A, you've got all our row numbers. Not a big deal. You can just delete it here, but how's everyone doing? You okay? Confused? Hanging in there? All right. Okay, let's save as a tab. Let's save as a tab-delimited file. This is write table. So you read in data and to read it in, and you write out data. X is what we want to write out. File, very similar. Let's try taxa, Florida. We're going to say txt because it's a text file. Here we do have to tell it what kind of separator we want to use. So if we said separator, comma, this would save it as a comma delimited file. So yeah, there are multiple ways to do things in R. I'm just going to copy this and paste it. If we wanted to save it as a tab delimited file, hang on, this is confusing. I beg your pardon. Let me fix this. All right, now this is the tab. Otherwise, that was going to be real confusing. Okay. We're going to, just like when we read it in, we're going to use our tab as our separator. I'm still setting row names to false because I don't like them. That's it. Let's run it. I'm going to go to where it should be saved. It's right here. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I just opened this file up, and this is what it looks like in our notepad. So it looks right. No row, there are no row values here in the first column. This might not go smoothly because I rarely write out files as Excel files. I almost always write them out as .csv files. And the reason for that is that if you write it out as an Excel file, you're assuming that everyone who wants to look at that file has access to Microsoft Excel. And that may not always be true because it's a proprietary program. So particularly for science and making sure things are transparent and accessible, file types like .txt, comma, separated values, .csv, things like that are accessible on any machine. So that means that anyone can have access to your data. So like when we share our data, we want to make it as easy as possible for someone else to open it up. So try to avoid proprietary software, like things like that when you're, saving files out. But let's try to write something out as an Excel file just so that we know how to do it. Let's see here. I don't even know the function. Let's see here. I might have to Google this. Hang on a second here. See, I don't use this, so I have to Google it. No. Save to Excel R. Writing data. Da-da-da. see what this says. I just don't know the function. Really? I have to use this library? Okay, that's fine. All right, so this is our function, and we need to use the xlsx library, which we've already installed. Okay, let's try that. There we go. Okay. Our input is E. Our file name is still going to be Florida, tax of Florida. That's our file extension. Is that it? Let's see here. Oh, once it's, okay, got it. All right. All right, the sheet name, we'll just call it taxa. Column names is logical. That means there are headers. Column names and headers are like interchangeable. And row names are false. Let me just wrap that around. Ooh, why is it mad? Let's try this. Okay, that was not. All right. So I thought it was mad about, I'm trying to guess what this error is about. And I was like, well, we're telling it explicitly to write it as an Excel file. So maybe I'll take away the extension. So I took away the extension and it said, no, I don't know what extension you want me to use. So that was not the answer. All right, I'm gonna try to figure out why it's giving me this error up here, length 1. Maybe I need to say append false. That's what the internet says to do. Let's try that. Nope, that's not it. If NA is available. Why are you mad? What's your problem? Head E. This is confusing. Is everyone else getting the same error? Yeah? Huh?
The library xlsx, and then
You got an error from this?
yes,
Does it say that it doesn't exist?
L and row space.
Oh, that's a different error. Huh? Okay, let's see if we can find a function. This one's, okay, this is classic. So our initial try with this function did not work. So let's go see if we can find a function from our original library, right? So what's that? We're gonna try to find a function from readxl. Okay. We did that. Oh, we know how to import. Go away. Wow, it wants me to install another package. Fine, I'll try it. I'll try this. All right. All right, so this is giving a weird error. Sad face. So trying a different package. Okay, so back to the internet. Says library, and then it wants us to use this write xlx function. So I'm just copying. Okay. All right, so here we're going to load up our new package we just installed. All right, our file name is tax of Florida. Okay. Call names are true. All right, that's it. Let's try this. Yay, it didn't give us an error. Hot dog. All right. Let's see what it looks like. Where'd it go? All right, let me try this. I'm not sure if it's overriding it or let me make sure I can see it. There it is. Oh, okay. That what wants this? It wants. There's no. I didn't include an extension here, so Word doesn't know what the heck it is. So I need to tell it what kind of file it is. That's why it's upset. All right, it worked. Did that you? Okay. Let me go back to the screen so that we can actually look at the things that we need to look at. There.
Yeah, I did a theory.
I'll do it. Yes. All right. For most of you, this worked, right? A success? Okay, cool. All right. We've got about 10 minutes left. So we'll start talking about how to sort your data for the next few minutes. Do we have any questions about importing or exporting files before I move on?
Convert like from CSV to FD. So it probably manually from CSV to
Sure. Yeah.
or we can do by ourselves.
Yeah. So, okay. You would just like we have, like we've imported that as an object. So let's try like that. So I think we originally imported our, I'm gonna scroll up here for a second. I believe our C object is that a CSV? Yes, it is. Okay. Okay, so we imported, so you want to go from tab to CSV? Or either direction's okay.
Let you go from
To tab?
yes.
Okay. It is actually, we just did that. It's up here.
Same file, you can say this like different.
What's that?
Like the same file, for example, on CSV file,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to convert it to text. Like if we do save as, then it functions.
Right, like so if you're in your, let's try this. Like if you're in your file explorer. So, okay, I'm gonna go, this is gonna take on, let me go back to one of our practice files. Don't save. Okay, this is from your homework, guys. I'm just using one of these because the other one that I pulled in from our practice is real big. Okay, so here's an example of one of your comma separated file, right? So you're saying, like, of course, in your Explorer, like when you open it up in Excel, what have you, you can say file, save as, and then you can choose a different type of file, right? So we could choose, there we go, text tab delimited. Yeah, and that would do it. Okay. So we go back to, am I sharing R or am I sharing? I think I'm sharing R. So so here we wrote, like we read in our CSV file, right? And then you wanted to save it as a tab, you would just say C, like whatever object you've assigned here, comma delimited data, and then you would save it as a tab delimited file. Does that help? Okay. Okay. There we go. Just trying to find some data that'll be appropriate. Okay, we're gonna use this eData, this Aurelia data here. You should already have it. It's a Tibble. Okay. Okay, so sometimes we want to like rearrange how the data looks, right? Maybe we want to see like what's the smallest number, the smallest value observation for something, what's the largest observation. If we had a timestamp, what was the earliest, what was the latest, etc. We do this in Excel all the time where we do our sort, right? We can sort the same way, very similar with data sets in R. So we're going to focus on sorting this little data frame here by the estimated number. So we'll do it from the smallest to the largest and then vice versa. Does everyone have this ready? Okay. No, all right. There are multiple sorting functions in R, like there are for everything else. I really love using the functions that are available in something called the tidyverse package. So I don't know if you've installed this yet. Go ahead and install tidyverse. We're going to use it a lot. Oops, come back. So we're going to go to our tools, install packages, and then it's TIDYVERSE. Okay, I'm gonna hit cancel because I've already installed it. All right. So once it's installed, go ahead and load the functions that are in that package. Okay. I'm gonna pause here. So when you load it, it actually, this is why I like tidyverse, because it's like tidy universe. It actually includes a bunch of different packages inside of it. So it's like checking out an encyclopedia. There are a lot of different volumes in there. So these are all the packs, like sub packages that are included in it. Now, in functions within it can create conflicts with functions in other packages. And so that's what this is about here. It's saying what functions it has that will interfere with functions that you may have from a separate package you've already loaded. So in this case, it has a function between, and it's going to replace the function between from data table. Another one would be like stats filter. It has stats filter here. So like if you are trying to use the filter function from stats and it's not working, it's because you've loaded tidyverse and it's essentially like kind of interfering with it. So that's just a heads up. So we're going to use the arrange function to rearrange our data. Okay, our data that we want to mess with is our object E. And I'm trying to remember, I think I always go backwards. So I think we can just say arrange E. I'm trying to remember if it goes from smallest to largest by default or the other way around. Okay. So this is me checking to see. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Data. Estimated number. That's what I forgot to do. Let's try this. Okay. Yay, we worked. Okay. So just type E real quick here. It's not that long. All right. So it starts with 1. And if we go tail E, all our large numbers should be at the bottom. And there they are, all our 1,000 values at the bottom. So we've gone from smallest to largest. This is not a data frame. Technically, it's a tibble. Oh, I gotta let you guys go. I'm so sorry. All right, real quick, finishing this thought. This is descend. All right, you will see this again. It goes the other way around. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. Oh, I don't know if you guys see this. R will ask you if you want to save your workspace. Don't do it. It just takes up memory. Yeah, don't do it. Don't save your scratch space. You're gonna see workspace files in your whatever directory. Delete them. They're just boondoggles. Don't save.